Hello everyone, what's happening? It's been a while since the last video, maybe 6 weeks or so. I think it was just after the Dublin Racing Festival at the start of February, so yeah, it's been a bit quiet on the video front, but I don't think we've missed many Cheltenham clues in the meantime. And I've just been on a run, and it just dawns on me that I've only got 5 days until the Cheltenham Festival actually starts, so I best get a move on with my little Cheltenham preview just to give my thoughts on, well, first of all, day one of the Cheltenham Festival. So yeah, I've been trying to put this video off as long as I could, to be honest, because I've never known a Cheltenham festival like it, for horses getting injured and changing targets every 2 minutes. My head's been up the wall with it all. I know this is part of anti-post gambling, but I've always thought it's been a bit exaggerated, to be honest. Like in previous years, I've been very lucky, and most of my horses have got there in one piece. Of course, I've had injuries, but most of the horses I've got there, and in terms of horses changing races, you might get one or two, but this year's just been crazy, from the Ferny Hollow and the Monkfish injuries to Appreciate to staying over hurdles to Daisai Dynamo and Sir Gerhard swapping races every 2 minutes, and Galopin de Champs swapping race every 2 minutes. Now Ginto's on the move for the Albert Bartlett. It's if instead of the Ballymore, it's just, I feel like every time I log onto Twitter, there's something else happening. And yeah, it's just about time to get the video up now. So I start with the Supreme Novice Hurdle. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's watched these videos since the start. I know I haven't been the most active with these videos, but it's kept me busy over the winter, and I've enjoyed having discussions with all of you. And yeah, best of luck to everybody at the Cheltenham Festival. I'll just give my thoughts now. So starting off with the Supreme Novice Hurdle, and the favourite's Constitution Hill. I think he's joint favourite with Sir Gerhard, but just as I'm recording this video, Sir Gerhard just had a massive move on the exchanges for the Ballymore and drifted all the way out for the Supreme. So it looks nailed on Sir Gerhard's going to Ballymore, but I'll touch on him anyway. But let's start with Constitution Hill. So first of all, I won't waste no time. He's my idea of the winner. Anybody who's watched these videos since the start will know that I'm really fond on this horse. Ever since he beat Mai Tai on his debut at Sandown, I thought he was just Nicky Henderson's next superstar. The way he was just in contention with Mai Tai at the last, okay, he was travelling all over him, but as soon as Nico gave him a squeeze, he was just gone, sprinted up the Sandown Hill as professional as you'd like, for a horse on debut, making his first career start. No, he'd never even had a point-to-point, sorry, he'd had a point-to-point run, but he'd never had a bumper run. I thought it was very impressive, and it's the first time I've really seen a horse sprint away like that since Shishkin sprinted away from Shaken Up Harry a couple of years back. And just, I think it's relevant that I bring Shishkin up because a couple of years ago, Shishkin looked visually unbelievable, very much like Constitution Hill, but didn't have the form in the book to back it up. He beat Shaken Up Harry at Newbury, I think it was, and then he went on to win the Sydney Banks at Huntington, beating Shamblu. Okay, Shamblu turned out to be a good chaser, but at the time he wasn't nothing special, and I think he only went on to finish sixth in a very average Ballymore that year, barring Envoy Allen, who was looking a superstar at the time. So yeah, I think Shishkin went into the Supreme a couple of years ago with not much form to his name, only looking visually impressive. And yeah, I'm not somebody who pins my colours to the mast with just following purely only times or stats or the form book. I try to use all the resources that I've got available and put them together to make my decision when I'm trying to find a winner of a race. But a couple of years ago, I was more driven on form in the book, so I left Shishkin and he went and won. He only just won the Supreme, but he was clearly the best horse in the race. Everything went against him, and it just showed he didn't have the form in the book. All the stats were against Shishkin. I believe no horse had won its prep run at Huntington and then went on to win at Cheltenham or the Supreme. It was something like this. His form hadn't stacked up, but he still went and won. So I thought to myself, after Shishkin won the Supreme, I need to change my approach a little bit. And I just feel like this is the time to maybe redeem myself, because I think Constitution Hill is a bit like Shishkin 2.0. Like I say, his form's nothing special. Even his Tolworth win after he beat Mai Tai on his debut, I think he beat Shall We Have One More is its name, and Mr. Glass, and both of them have come out and lost since. And maybe even more from that Tolworth have come out and been beat since. So the form's not great at all in comparison to some of his rivals in the Supreme, like John Bon and Sir Gerhard, whose form's had a couple of boosts and looks a bit more rock solid. But yeah, it's just visuals with this Constitution. Like I say, it's the way he sprinted up the hill both times at Sandown. Okay, Sandown mightn't be the best trial, especially the Tolworth in recent years for the Supreme, but it didn't stop Somerville Boy from winning the Supreme when he took the Tolworth hurdle on the way to doing so. And I'm not going to let this put me off this time. I've been sold on Constitution Hill from the start, and I think it could be Nicky Henderson's next superstar. So I'm going to stick with him and take a bit of a chance. I think he'll drift on the day. He's joint favourite now, but you can see him going off 4-1. Maybe again, very similar to Shishkin, a big drift on the day, because I think the money will come for the form horses. But yeah, like I say, Constitution Hill for me. So moving on to the next in the market, which is Sir Gerhard, and I'll touch on him briefly because I'll focus on him more for the Ballymore. But listen, this Sir Gerhard's an absolute weapon. We all know this when he won the champion bumper. He's looked great over hurdles so far this season. But saying that, I wasn't as blown away with him at the Dublin Racing Festival as everybody else was. I think maybe this is because, like I say, I'm not a pure times guy. I don't pay a lot of attention, just purely to times. I believe the timing clock was phenomenal. But if visually for me, I didn't come away from that thinking, wow, the Supreme at his mercy or the Ballymore at his mercy. Well, maybe the Ballymore because it's a weaker race, but we'll touch on that when I cover day two. But for me, his jumping left a lot to be desired, and he didn't beat Three Stripe Life much more comfortable than Mighty Potter did. And Mighty Potter's 10-1, and Sir Gerhard was almost being touted as a banker for this race, which is one of the hottest Supremes in years. I love Sir Gerhard, like I say, he's in my top 10 to follow team for the year, so I'll be hoping he can rack me up points one way or another, whether he goes the Supreme or the Ballymore. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Sir Gerhard's. Of course, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that he's an absolute weapon of an horse. But just for me, I don't think I was just blown away at Leopardstown. Maybe that's a foolish statement. I know we clocked an amazing time, but visually for me, it wasn't as great as everybody else was talking about. So anyway, he's going to the Ballymore, it looks like, so I'll move on to John Bon. So I think John Bon gets a lot of unnecessary stick. I love John Bon. I basically love every horse in this race. I usually with races so competitive, I have a couple I like, a couple I really don't like. I'm usually all one or the other, but I just like these all. I think the thing with John Bon and Constitution Hill, because they're trained both by Nicky Henderson in the same stable, people are kind of picking the one they want and kind of dissing the other one. So if you're a Constitution Hill fan, you think John Bon's overrated. If you're a John Bon fan, you think Constitution Hill's overrated. I just like them both, I'll be honest. I think he's got almost everything you want, John Bon. He's a good hurdler, he's slick, he's pacey. Yeah, he looks like he stays in the heavy ground and Haydock. He was doing a lot of his best work at the finish. So he ticks a lot of boxes, John Bon, but just me personally, for whatever reason, it is Constitution Hill that I've come down on it. Maybe just a bit of a pick just because I liked him straight away at Sandown, but I'm going to stick with him. But I don't think John Bon is as overrated as everybody else is saying. And I feel like every time somebody mentions John Bon, they automatically have to mention how fizzy he is and will he boil over at the start of the Supreme and like he's this absolute nutcase. But on evidence, he's ran in 3 steadily done races and he's coped perfectly fine. And I don't think it's going to be as big as an issue as everybody else is talking about. I know Cheltenham's next level. The first time crowd's back in 2 years. If he is a fizzy horse, it may get the better of him. But he's not the only one in this race that is a bit keen. And it just, Daisai Dynamo is much keener in his races than John Bon, who we'll move on to in a second. But yeah, John Bon for me, I think he gets a lot of unnecessary stick, but he wouldn't be the winner for me in this race. But I certainly wouldn't be surprised if he did get his head in front. I think he's a classy animal. And of course, he's had form boosts stacking up. Maybe not the strongest races in the world, the horses in behind him have been winning, but they've been winning, and that's all they can do. So it looks good on the John Bon front. So moving on to Daisai Dynamo, this horse I've got a lot of time for, but I think I'd be more interested in him in an Arkle in next year, in a year's time. He's a really keen going sort, and I just wonder, will he do too much in the early and middle part of this race and something just finish off the race a bit stronger than him? Listen, I know horses like Classical Dream in the past have been keen and made all, and Daisai Dynamo certainly looks of the same ability and mould, but I just don't know if there was the likes of Constitution Hill, John Bon in that Classical Dream Supreme a couple of years ago, and I don't think Daisai Dynamo will get away with it here. Again, I won't be surprised if he does win. Not to sit on the fence, I just think it's really hard to have a strong opinion on this race, and I think they're all quality animals, so the last thing I want to do is start saying negative things about them because I love them all. But I just think Daisai Dynamo is, yeah, I think he could be going really well, obviously, and then just towards the end, if Constitution Hill or even a Mighty Potter might just finish a little bit stronger than him, but I stand to be corrected, and we'll see what happens. So moving on to Mighty Potter, who's clipped into 8, 9, 10-1 now, which is getting more towards the same fair price. He was the same price as El Fabiolo a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even last week, which I think is an absolute insult to him. He's a grade 1 winner, beating Three Stripe Life quite comfortably in similar fashion to Sir Gerhard. And he was unlucky in the Royal Bond, got caught out a bit of tactical pace, maybe he was still a bit green. And I think that could be his undoing here in the Supreme. I just wonder, will he have the tactical pace in a field of this stature, if that word even makes sense. This feels so strong, and I just think you're going to have to be the complete package to win this Supreme. And this is a big reason why I'm a Constitution Hill fan. I think he stays, I think he quickens, I think he jumps well, he's relaxed. It's only experience with Constitution Hill. I know people have compared him to Spirit Sun, saying the experience might catch him out, and maybe it will, but I think he'll be the best of these in time, and that's why I'm going to stick with him. But yeah, Mighty Potter, I do think he's going to come up the hill strong. I think everybody can see that by the way he races. He looks like he's going to be better over further, but a strongly 2 mile Supreme will suit. A strongly run 2 mile Supreme will suit. But I'd be shocked if there's not one or two that are just better than him at this stage of his career over 2 miles on the day. I'm a massive Mighty Potter fan. He was 9-4 to hit the frame a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure what price he is now, but I put him in a couple of place doubles and trebles. And one of them off the top of my head is Mighty Potter to place in the Supreme, Epitan to place in the Champion Hurdle, and Vanilla in the National Hunt Chase to place. You can get good prices about them all, and I think they've all got cracking place chances. But yeah, Mighty Potter, I'm a massive fan of. I think he'll be a great chaser. But I just think this Supreme, I think there might be one or two just a bit more too sharp for him. And then just a quick touch on the rest, because we've already talked about the Supreme for 10 minutes. And basically this would be probably the race I talk about the most out of any of them, because it's just, there's so many to go through. But the likes of El Fabiolo, it's too hard to get a handle on horses like that, and he'd have to be a superstar to come here off the back of one run, really. And just like I say, I don't know much about him, so it's hard to really say anything about him. But yeah, just what we know of the horse at the top of the market, El Fabiolo is going to have to be a monster if he can come and beat these on a second run. Good job of checking my phone then, just to see if I've missed any, because I haven't talked about Kilcrut, who I know a lot of people fancy to bounce back to form here. I suppose he did bounce back to something like his best form last time out. I believe he clocked some great sectionals and great times. Like I say, I'm not a big lover of just always looking at times, because I think it throws you off a lot of the time. But I do believe the times guys were made up with them. I've seen Simon Rowland saying he looked every bit back to himself. And if he's back to himself, listen, who can forget his performance in the Dublin Racing Festival last season, and the way he charged up the hill behind Sir Gerhard last year in the champion bumper over course and distance. Probably should have won that day with the better ride. But the thing for me with Kilcrut is he's got questions to answer still this season off the back of his first 2 runs, whereas a lot of these in this race haven't put a foot wrong. At 7-1, I couldn't really be thinking about him. I know he got fitted with the tongue tie last time, was it? And he upped his game. But I don't know, when he's come under pressure this season, albeit with before the tongue tie, he just looked a bit shaky, unprofessional, and last time it was so easy for him, he didn't have to do nothing off the bridle. I just wonder with this horse, that laggy debut form hasn't worked out for whatever reason. And even the race last time, Journey with Me is a stayer, and my Croon is a stayer. But to be honest, it was over the intermediate trip, a 2 mile 4, so maybe Kilcrut's just a 2 miler. Who knows? But of course, he comes here with a chance, like everything in this race. But for me personally, he wouldn't be for me. And the other horses we have are Bring on the Night. That's another one who's only had the one run. It'd be a big step up for him to make a splash here. And yeah, I think it's time to move on from this race now, but looks an absolute cracker. So if we move on to the Arkle, and anyone that's followed these videos knows the disaster I've had with the Arkle. I have Ferny all at 33s, put them up on these videos at 11s in the first ever video. I also had a cover bet on Appreciator to win the Supreme and any novice chase. I think it was 12-1. So I thought I was sorted for the Arkle at the start of the year, and now I'm left clutching at straws. To be honest, and the way I look at this market now, the top 3, you can make a case for Edwardstone, Blue Lords, or Riviera to Tell, but I'm not going to take a short price about any of them. I don't think any of them are superstars, and of course, you don't need to be a superstar to win this year's Arkle, but I just can't bring myself to put any money on Edwardstone 9-4, Blue Lords 7-2, or Riviera to Tell 4-1. For whatever reason, I just think I'm going to take a chance on a couple of outsiders here, or like bigger priced horses. Of course, like I said, Stone's done nothing wrong, but it's just always hard to read that English form. He wasn't the best hurdler. I know none of these really were, but it just wouldn't be for me at 9-4. Blue Lords, I thought he was overrated over hurdles. He was always very keen. That second in the Supreme to me was worthless. Appreciate it was a fair longer head than the rest of them were a sorry bunch. Riviera to Tell, listen, you can't knock her, and it's one of them, like, performance, even though she was getting a stone off Ferny to run him that close was a great performance. and she would have won the Irish Arkle at the Dublin Racing Festival with a better jump. I believe, and I know many believe, but I don't want to say for sure because I know a lot of people thought Blue Laws was just getting idle in front. But listen, I think Riviere to Tell with a good jump at the last, and she wins that quite easily. But yeah, they just wouldn't be for me. And I wonder if she had too many races now, Riviere to Tell. I don't know, but like I say, I've took a chance on Horton Colors and Magic Days. So I'll back my Magic Days with small money after Ferny Hollow and Appreciate It come out, or after Ferny Hollow, sorry, in January, was it? I believe so, yeah. And I backed her at 40 to 1, and she's had a massive price crash now. I don't think she's worth backing at 12 to 1. It sounds silly because a winner's a winner, like, but it's just at 40 to 1. It was just that angle. I didn't, to be honest, I can't remember where I heard it, but it wasn't even my idea. I just heard, might have been Don McLean banging on about it, just pointing out that this is the put the kettle on route. She's obviously going to get the mares allowance. She's a front runner. They do well in the Arkle. And I just think Magic Days was overpriced at 40, and she was worth a little bit of my money at the time, just feeling desperate for myself to get something on in the race. After the Ferny Hollow sorrows, but at 12 to 1, I don't think she represents much value now. And Horton Colors, I just always thought this horse is being spoke about in high regards. It's never done nothing wrong on the track, besides falling last time. But it was pitched into the Triumph on its first run in a Grade 1, and it ran an absolute stormer. This was also at the festival, so it's festival form, albeit it was on the new course, not the old course. And then it ran a stormer at Punchestown, and I think Paul Townend would love to have that ride back. It hit the front far too soon. Probably should have won that day. And then on his beginner's chase debut, it beat Gentleman to Me, who's come out and won twice since, and I believe he won a Grade 3 by a distance a couple of weeks ago. I think it was the Flying Bolt at Navan. So I think Horton Colors could be one maybe going a little bit under the radar, and it could be one with more scope to improve, with only 2 runs over hurdles and 2 runs over fences. 5-year-olds don't have a great record in the Arkle, but this isn't a vintage Arkle, and I wouldn't really take the trends into too much account here. I just think Horton Colors in them Donnelly silks, like the good horses, could find a bit of improvement here. You'd be taking a lot on trust, coming off the back of a fall. And like I say, this horse was always well regarded, always brought up by Willie Mullins and other people around the yard as a potential superstar. But the one thing that would disappoint me is, during these preview shows I've been watching, there hasn't been no standout mention for him. Even when they asked, I think, Mikey Fogarty on the Race Hour preview, who's the best, Blue Lord, Horton Colors, or St. Sam, he said they're kind of just all at the same level, which wouldn't be good, wouldn't be a positive for me. I thought maybe, I was hoping he could be a little bit more like the best worker out there, the best workhorse of them at home, showing the most ability, and he could maybe transfer it to the track. But if anything, Barry Geraghty on off the fence was saying that St. Sam was the one that was working well when he stayed behind to watch the Willie Mullins racecourse gallop last weekend, I believe it was. He said he was right up alongside an Ergamine, if I remember rightly. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was on off the fence. So yeah, maybe St. Sam's working the best out of these. I don't know. A little touch on St. Sam. He ran a good race last time. He was very good on his beginner's chase. And then last time out, there was a couple of bad jumps, and he went a frantic gallop from the front and was staying on and closing at the line when it looked like he'd lost all chance with the bad jump at the second last, was it? If I remember rightly. But this horse looks like it could need further. Maybe you could say that about a couple of them in this race. I don't know. It's a messy one. You got Course Sublime in there that was a long way behind Riviere to Tell and Ferny Hollow at Christmas, but you wonder, was he being mapped out for a handicap at that stage before Ferny Hollow got injured? Course Sublime, yeah, even Gordon Elliott's been saying it the last couple of weeks, what a workhorse he was at Gordon Elliott's. I always remember reading Keith Donohue's Bookmaker's blog. I don't know what happened to that. I used to love it. He used to give some great insight. And he said that, because Keith Donohue obviously works in the Gordon Elliott yard, and he said that Course Sublime was one of the best workhorses in the whole yard. He worked like a champion hurdle horse. And they entered him for the champion hurdle one year. He ran, but I think he ran a stinker. I think it was the year of Epitaph. He's got a little bit of festival form from when he come second in the Triumph, I think it was, to Pentland Hills. But he's never really lived up to his potential until then. And maybe there's the switch of trainer now. He's at Henry de Bromheads and the new obstacles in front of him, fences instead of hurdles, has revitalised this horse, and maybe now he can transfer his homework to the track. He's 14 to 1 best price. I wouldn't put anyone off that. But it's like I say, this race, I wouldn't have a strong opinion on any of them. You've got Jungle Boogie, he's entered in every single novice chase. I wouldn't have a clue where he's going. Gabby Nacho's being supplemented for this, which is interesting. he was entered over 3 miles and 2.5 at the festival, so you know he'll stay strongly over this trip, and he's a good jumper on his day. But then, has he only been supplemented for this because it looks so weak and they're trying to take advantage? Couldn't really be having him at 20 to 1, but listen, he's interesting. And then you're into the likes of Warlords and For Pleasure, and I don't know if I could be having them either. I know one of the guys on these videos commented that he fancies Warlords for the Arkle and at 40 to 1. Good luck to you, fella. Might have a chance in an open year. So I'm going to skip the handicaps till the end, and I'm going to jump right to the champion hurdle. And listen, like I said in the first ever video that I uploaded, I think our Honeysuckle's a banker for the champion hurdle, and I think I'll be with her all year, and I am. 5 or 6 months later, I haven't changed my mind. She's an absolute superstar, as we all know. I don't see what beats her. I see the appreciator angle. He could be a superstar, but I find it hard to think that he can come out on his first run of the season, even under Willie Mullins, and even for Willie Mullins, and give Honeysuckle £7 and beat her. I just find that extremely hard to believe. I don't even think Appreciator is a 2-miler. I think it just circumstances forced him to be a 2-miler last season, and he took advantage of a terrible division. Listen, I'm not saying he's not a good horse. I think he's a top horse. I've always liked Appreciator, but at 3 to 1, I don't think that's value to find out if he can beat Honeysuckle first time out, giving her that £7. Tihupu's a likeable horse. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that rightly, but Tihupu, maybe. Yeah, he's going in the right direction. I know a lot of people were raving over him. His last performance, beating Durasso, who's a solid yardstick in these type of races and trials. But for me, Tihupu, I think he'll be exposed here. I don't think he's raced in a race of this caliber. I don't think he's raced in a Grades 1 ever. Correct me if I'm wrong. He may have as a juvenile hurdler, but I'm not 100% sure. I just think you can pick holes in his form. Listen, he's a likeable horse, like I've said. I think he's destined to have a good career. He's only young. He's only a 5-year-old, but 5-year-olds don't have a good record in this race. And to be honest, I'd rather be on the side of Zana here, a different 5-year-old from the same stable for this race, and maybe a betting without Honeysuckle market, because I don't think anything will get near it. But to you, with it 8 to 1, if you're an each way gambler, I'm not. If you think he'll hit the places, listen, it's a wide open renewal. I'm not going to put no one off, but Tihupu wouldn't be for me. I haven't been as blown away with him as everybody else. Then we're on to Epitan, 10 to 1. I think she's got a good chance of finishing second to Honeysuckle. She seems in much better form this season than on last, and she hit the frame last year. And she could go one better because the horse in front of her last year, splitting her and Honeysuckle, was Charger, and he's not racing this year. Yeah, so she hasn't got Charger to beat this year, and she's in much better form than last year, in my opinion, and I think in everybody else's opinion, including Nicky's. So I don't think she's a bad bet in the without Honeysuckle market. I haven't even looked at this market yet. I've just heard people talking about what they fancy in it. I wouldn't know the price for her, but she probably would be the horse who would have to finish second to Honeysuckle. She also gets that mare's allowance Epitant, and I just think it's hard for any of the boys to give these mares £7 when the mares are on a going day. And Epitant on a going day is a champion hurdler, as we seen a couple of years ago. Like I say, last year she had problems, and this year, even when she dead heated in the fighting fifth, I thought this horse is gone. She's not a patch on what she was. But last time out, it was much better. I know the bare form of the race at the time was nothing special, but the second, Glory and Fortune, has come out and won the Betfair Hurdle, even though I don't think the Betfair Hurdle was the strongest renewal this year. So yeah, I think Epitant's going in the right way, and I think she's nailed on to it, the frame, in my opinion. Maybe not nailed on, but she's in a couple of my place bets, and so I'm really hoping that she does run well. Then we're on to Zana here, who I touched on before. He's been mixing it in all the top grades ones this year in Ireland, and he mixed it in a lot of the top grades ones last season as a juvenile. I think he's a battle-hardened horse. Gordon Elliott said he's going to put cheek pieces on him, not because the horse is ungenuine, just to sharpen him up for this track. I think it's a good idea. I think this is probably the last time we might see Zana here at 2 miles in his career. Maybe unless he sticks at that trip over fences in the future. But I think he'll go up and stiff for the 2.5 mile at Aintree. And then, to be honest, I think he's got a great chance in that. And I think his future could be over middle and staying distances. But I think Zana here could run. If you'd ask me for my TriCast in the champion hurdle, like I say, it wouldn't be a strong view, but it'd be Honeysuckle, Epitant, and Zana here. Listen, Appreciate it's a top quality horse, and I'm not saying Zana here and Epitant are as good as him, but I just find it hard to fit Appreciate it into the 3 here without having seen him run for a year. I just think it's going to be a massive ask, but fair play to the horse if he runs well and he does squeeze into the frame or maybe even win the race. So the rest of the horses I don't think are worth a mention. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. Maybe Adagio. It was an okay little bit comeback run behind Goshen on a track that would have suited Goshen a lot more. But again, he's a 5-year-old. I know his form from the Great Wood stacking up, but these 5-year-olds do struggle in this race. I know I said Zanny here could run well, but yeah, I still don't think he's got the ability to win. I think Adagio could struggle here and be a bit more exposed in this field. And then we're down to Sanra, if that's how you pronounce it. My French isn't very good. Every couple of months, this horse will run, and people will say he showed a bit more life. He could be back to his best. I just don't. I've never seen it. Every time he runs, I think he runs a shocker, but he still has fans. Listen, they must be seeing something I'm not, but I can't have him anywhere near this lot. I don't think he's done anything since he won the County Hurdle a couple of years ago. Since that day, I've never liked him. Then Tommy's Oscar, he's going in the right direction, but surely he's going to be way out of his depth here. Not so sleepy, Glory and Fortune. I think it's time to move on. So the Mares Hurdle next. And listen, this is a very competitive race. You can make a case for 5 or 6, maybe more. I don't know. This is a race I found it hard to get a handle on for a while. I backed Queensbrook in December. Only a small bet at him, 16-1. So I had my eye on her the other week when she was racing in the Quevegas Mares Hurdle at Punchestown against Burning Victory. And I was hoping Queensbrook would win. She was beat, but she ran a good race in defeat. Gordon Elliott said they left her with a lot to work on, and she'll improve a lot for the festival. She's taken the same route as Black Tears did for the same stable before winning the race last year and before winning the Mares Hurdle last year. So there's a lot to like about Queensbrook's prep. She's got that classy back form. She come third to Appreciate It and Ferny Hollow in the champion bumper 2 years ago off the back of one run previously in a bumper, and she was sent off 6-1 behind those two. So she must have always been well thought of. She's a big, like, looks like a staying mare. I remember Barry Geraghty said she could have even been at Albert Barlow horse against the boys this time last year. Or not this time last year, at the start of last season. And she kind of had a quiet year. She didn't even end up running at the festival last year, if I recall. So yeah, she's kind of went off the radar a bit, but she's come back this year looking more herself. Listen, like you say, all the back form's there. She's a classy mare. I believe, according to Jamie Codd, Dennis O'Regan jumped off her after her second the other week and said this mare's going to come on a ton. I think they're really sweet on it in Gordon's yard, and when Gordon lays one out and really targets a race, you know, he's as good as any. And I think that everything's been about this Mares Hurdle the whole year for Queensbrook. This being said, I was really impressed by Burning Victory also in the same race, so I decided to back Burning Victory. So they're my two for this race. I backed her at 8-1 straight after the race. Not running no bet, but looks like she's going to turn up here. I do think Burning Victory, I thought when she won the Triumph, she was a lucky winner. She'd be one of those horses that won't ever do anything else in her career. And it looked that way for a small time, but then she finished second to Buzz in the Cesaro, which was a great effort. And then this season, she hasn't been too bad. She came third in the Grade 1 at Christmas, the Christmas Hurdle behind Classical Dream and Flooring Porter, which is decent Grade 1 form. Okay, she was a long way behind them, but I still thought that was a good run. And maybe 3 miles was just that little bit too far for her. Who knows? But she was back down to 2.5 the other day with the application of some headgear. I can't remember what they put on her, and she jumped a lot better. The jumping's been a lot better this year. It used to be terrible, but she's got her jumping together. She seems to be learning on the job, and I think this Burning Victory's got a cracking chance. So I'm happy to go to war with both Burning Victory and Queensbrook. If I had to nail my colours to one, I'd pick Queensbrook. I think she's got the most improvement left in her. She was charging Burning Victory down on the line the other week, but yeah, I think the winner will come from that Quevegas Mares Hurdle we saw at Punchestown, and I'm hoping it's either one, but Queensbrook would be the main selection. Tell Me Something Girl, a favourite, just to give a quick talk on. I wouldn't put no one off Tell Me Something Girl. I think she's got a favourite's chance. Henry's always said he's been working backwards from this race since the start of the season. She came out the best at the weights on a run behind Royal Kahala at Christmas. I just think at this moment, 3-1 best price is a little bit too short for my money in such a competitive race. We know her owner, Kenny Alexander, loves targeting these mares races. He won this race with Honeysuckle a couple of years ago. She's got a great chance, of course she has, and if you're on at bigger prices, well done to you. She's got every chance. But me personally, just at 3-1, I think it's a bit skinny. The one that interests me a tiny bit, without naming the whole field, but I'm not going to back her, of course. And I just think this Maria's Rock's a bit of a funny one. She's showed signs of getting back to form this year. Nicky's good with mares, and you just think he seems quite sweet on it. And at 10-1, could she be under the radar a little bit? I'm not sure, but like I say, I'm happy with my two mares, and I'll stick with Queensbrook and Burning Victory. So moving on to the National Hunt Chase. So, okay, so I put Ahoy Senor in these videos up for the National Hunt Chase, and basically he's not even running. It was a complete waste of a point or 0.5 point, whatever it was. But oh well, it's not much. I thought this track was being made for him. Just gallop all day. But listen, he's not going there, so that leaves you with Run Wild Fred, another horse I backed at the start of the year at 10-1. I'm more than happy with that now. It wasn't the biggest stake in the world, like most of my bets aren't. At the start of the season, they're just to get me a little head start on the horses I think I may be fancying towards near the time. He's 11-4 now, Run Wild Fred, and I still think that's value. I can't have Statler at all. I know a lot of people can't, which makes it easier for me to say it so I don't look like an absolute clown if he goes and wins. But I think he could be like one of the lays of the festival. To me, he's just, yeah, well, to everybody. I know I don't want to copy what everybody else is saying. I know this video is coming out a bit later than everybody else's, but I completely agree with the carefully selected comparisons. He's only had 2 runs over fences. He wasn't the cleanest jumper last time out. He hasn't really got the profile for this race. He's inexperienced. He got beat 15 lengths by Vanilla, who's double his price almost, at the festival last year. I just think he's a favourite. We're taking on Statler, and listen, I'm not bothered at all that I haven't got him on my team sheet. Run Wild Fred, on the other hand, ticks all the trends. Like I say, I'm not a massive trends guy, but I just think you can't ignore that this horse looks like he's been designed for this race. I know he's only wanted 1 for 10 over fences, but he's got to be going close. Vanilla is Gavin Cromwell, a lovely target trainer for the Cheltenham Festival. He's just creeping back into form this week with a couple of winners. And yeah, you can't ignore Vanilla's run at the Cheltenham Festival last year in the Albert Bartlett. And that was coming off the back of a bad run at the Dublin Racing Festival. So I'm expecting a lot of improvement from Vanilla from his last run to the run that we'll see on Tuesday in the National Hunt Chase. He hasn't been the cleanest jumper either. Derek O'Connor's booked. It's 9-2. He's a Cheltenham Festival winner. I think that's about the right price for Vanilla, and he probably does scare me the most as a Run Wild Fred backer. The other horse I've backed in this race is Brayside, and only a small bet, and literally just because Jamie Codd's riding him. You can't let Jamie Codd go unbacked in this race at 16-1. I'm not bothered if the horse had 3 legs. He's a master at races like this. It's 16-1. It's worth anyone's money, in my opinion. He's a Cork national winner. He should stay. I don't think he's got anywhere near the class of the top 3. But at 16-1, I had to have a little tickle on him. Out of the rest of the horses, I don't think the under through 5 going here because the owners want to keep the Adrian Heskin to keep the ride, and I think they're targeting the RSA instead, or the Brown Advisory. Does he know? I believe he's going for the handicap. Pat's Fancy, I think, is going here, and on the race hour preview again, I know a couple of the lads on there fancy him a lot, so good luck to them. And on the ropes, looks a kind of ideal type for this, but I haven't heard if he's going. I guess he would, but he could be interesting. But like I say, this race, it doesn't inspire me. It's a National Hunt Chase. Like I say, I'm on Run Wild Fred and Brayside, and if one of them can win the last race of the Tuesday for me, I'll be happy. A little bit of bonus money, but I won't be winning major money on this race. So just a quick touch on the handicaps to finish. I try and keep this short and sweet because I really don't like handicaps. To me, I wouldn't even bet on them at all. Only it's the Cheltenham Festival, and I like to have a bet in every race. It only comes around once a year, and of course I'll be having a couple of drinks, and yeah, it's too long for me to wait in between the graded races, so I do like having a little bet on these, but this is just bonus money. I only bet small stakes. Really not a handicap type of guy. So we started off with the ultimate, and we know that the English have a great record in this race, but it's a bit difficult to just discount the Irish based on that fact. But history will tell you that you should discount the Irish. But anyway, just sticking on the Irish, they've got a pretty strong team this year. They've got Debt Duty, 7-1 favourite. You've got Fluer, 10-1, who ties in with that frontal assault firm form from the Kim Muir, who we'll touch on when I talk about the Thursday. Got Schoolboy Hours, I don't know who he runs here, but he'd surely have a chance. But the two I've come down on quickly are Fantastic Ass and Fullback. 2 English runners, Gary Moore and Nigel Twiston-Davis. They both have Cheltenham form. Fullback's 1 from 1 at the track. I backed the Wolf against him that day, and yeah, I thought it was a good performance by Fullback, and he was still doing a lot of good work at the finish. He would come out last time against Yala Enki. I think that was just too far for him, and I believe he was conceding a lot of weight, if I remember rightly. But I'd probably be a little bit more sweet on this Fantastic Ass. His thirds at the Glancing Queen and La Home Presse at the Cheltenham Festival. At Cheltenham a couple of months back, if it was in January, I think, that could be rock solid form. The Glancing Queen's one of the favourites of the Paddy Plough Plate Paddy power plate, and the home press I'll be strongly fancied for whatever novice chase he goes in. So this Fantasticas was staying on third behind them, and up and strip here, I think he's got a great chance. He's well found in the market. He's 10-1. I haven't got much more of a case to make for him. Like I said, I don't spend much time on handicaps. And yeah, Fantasticas and fullback for me. I'd be happy with the two of those. So the Boodles is a race I've got even less of an opinion on. It all stems around this Gaelic Warrior. Listen, he's 9-4. Am I going to take that? No, I'm not. But I wouldn't be laying it either. I've never laid a horse in my life anyway, but just metaphorically speaking or technically speaking, whatever. I wouldn't be laying him because who knows what this Gaelic Warrior is about. You hear rumours of him training with Vauban at home, that he could have like over a stone in hand. You hear Tony Keenan saying on off the fence that he was one of the best horses that came over from France, according to his French expert friend, this season. So he could be a grade 1 horse. He's priced up for the Arkle and the Champion Hurdle next year, for whatever that's worth. That could just be anyone requesting him, who knows, but it's just really hard to get a handle on this horse, and I'm not on him, but if you're on a bigger price, well done to you. And listen, I like one of these little French imports that's just absolutely chucked in the Richie colours. If he comes there swinging, it'll be a nice sight to behold. So I won't begrudge Gaelic Warrior winning, but I won't be backing him. The tide turns at 11-2 makes a lot more sense to me. I just think, from what we're seeing on the track, he could be a grade 1 horse. He's ran some good efforts in defeat, and his race last time out at Gowran was especially good against elder horses. He looks very professional. I just think there's a lot to like about this horse. His form's rock solid, and I think he'll get a good run for your money with the tide turns. I don't think he'll be far away anyway. That's the one I've backed. I think I took 8s or 9s a couple of weeks ago. He's 11-2 now. Still think that's a fair price. I wouldn't have a clue where to go with the rest of these. Fil Dor, be interesting if he comes here, but I don't think the track will suit him. Gordon said he looks a staying type, and surely he'll take his chance in the Triumph. Champion Green, yes, I know a lot of people are putting him up, but don't know much about the horse, to be honest. Sorry for the noise there. Yeah, Brazilian HMSC horse, 2 ex-Ballydoyle horses. Both by Gallyhill also, I believe, and HMSC horse at one time had a couple of fancy entries on the flat, especially in the French Classics, I believe, the French Derby and the French Guineas, if I remember rightly. So I don't know what's happened with that horse now for him to be running over hurdles, but he looks a nice type. Same with Brazil. I actually backed Brazil for the St. Ledger anti-post on the flat once upon a time, which is one of my worst anti-post bets of all time. So yeah, these are 2 horses that I remember very well from the flat, and like I say, they're both transferred to this cold well enough, but I think Brazil may have blew his mark last time out when he won by about 15 lengths. HMSC horse, on the other hand, might have a tasty weight to remember. I think it's about 10 stone 10. So yeah, wouldn't put anyone off any of these prices in a race like this. I think an 80-1 won it last year, Jeff Kidder. So yeah, you can go down the whole list and just pick whatever you fancy. This isn't a race I'll be getting too involved in. Like I say, I've backed the tide turns, and that'll probably do for me. And if I won any money on the day, I might back another one just for a bit of fun before the race goes off. So anyway, that's me. I've rambled on enough about day 1. So just to give a recap of the first day, I like Constitution Hill in the Supreme. In the Arkle, I've split stakes, Horton Colors and Magic Days. I've got more on Horton Colors, but you know what I mean. Basically, back 2 horses in that race. I've backed 2 horses in the Ultimate, Fantasticas and Fullback. In the Champion Hurdle, I'm all over Honeysuckle anti-post, so hopefully she goes in, the good thing. In the Mares Hurdle, I'm on Burning Victory in Queensbrook. I'd have a preference for Queensbrook. In the Boodles, I'm on the tide turns. Whether he's good enough to win, I'm not sure, but I think he'll be bang there. And then the National Lunch Chase, I'm on Run Wild Fred, and I've had a little tickle on Brayside just because you can't let Jamie Cobb go on back at those prices. So yeah, that's one's out the way, and when I can get round to it, I get the preview for the Wednesday up. So I hope you're all good. It's yeah, I wish you all the best of luck this week. Bye.